It's like I've started these things before, so I can't help but blurt these questions out. So, I mean, but you're right. This is a real problem for me in positioning myself with the client. One of our customers is the Mercedes-Benz Club of America. Not the manufacturer, the enthusiast club, okay? Not all the money, the volunteers, okay? So don't get the wrong idea, right? So, but with that, the Mercedes-Benz Club, after a while, they were treating me as one of the members of their board. I was a vendor and I didn't want to be a member of that dysfunctional board. I couldn't help them that way. I could tell them the truth, but I just couldn't help them. And I got too incestuous with them. And now that's one of my weaknesses.
And actually, my boss loves Rick. And part of it's because he's losing his hair and there's an air of responsibility that comes with that appearance. So I'm not going to
Obi-Wan, you're our final hope.
But we've worked with a lot of developers that don't answer the phone. One of the points that I'm going to make ad nauseum is communicating with the customer. When we call Rick, if he's not in, we hear from him in an hour. We've called prior developers, you don't hear for 2-3 days. And in the absence of knowledge, you create what's going on in your head. The analogy we kind of came up with before the presentation was, you're lying in bed and there's a shadow on the wall. That's the monster across the room when you're a kid. The longer you sit there and look at that, the bigger and meaner and the scarier it gets. But once mom comes and shows you it's just your sweater on a chair with the light off of it, it becomes much easier to deal with. The longer we as a customer have to sit and stew on this stuff, the madder we get, the more arguments we come up with to hit you with as far as why you suck. I'm just being frank about it. That's what the client thinks in a lot of cases because we're scared and because we're intimidated and all those things. We can get mean. We can get just ornery and hard to deal with. And I am sure, I've got the website now, and I pick up the phone and I take phone calls and start with, well, your website sucks. And as much as I want to go, well, heck with you, or whatever, my answer is, can you be more specific? Because it's hard to fix. That sucks. This guy is now a good customer. He's like, oh, I'm going back to this other supplier because when you got this contract, people had changed suppliers. They were ticked off to begin with. But just that non-defensive communication, frequent communication, really diffuses the situation so you can get past the emotion and into the how am I going to fix this? Because you can point fingers all day, but it doesn't get you anywhere.
You've had a question for a long time.
I didn't necessarily have a question, but I was just going to share one thing we found with our clients is, especially in starting out, we always wanted to find what R looks like for the client and the I and the ROI. And we may not ask it in those terms, but we always want to make sure that our clients have a very clear definition of what success is going to look like.
That's an excellent
and you can determine how you can tell what your client's expectations are of your input into their business strategy based on how they answer that question. If they're coming to you and they have a really clear idea of what success is going to look like, what positive ROI is going to look like, you're probably not going to have to do a ton of business consulting. And as you set up requirements, you're not going to have to fight with them as much. Whereas if you ask them, okay, so what's success look like for you? We get this site done, and 6 months down the road, what's going to have to happen for you to look at this and say, this worked out, I got what I wanted? If they don't know how to answer that question, you are either going to be doing a lot of business consulting that you may or may not be getting paid for, or you're getting into one of those scenarios where you might want to just pass it on.
Well, yeah, that first
website. And it all depends on, Rick, right?
Yeah.
Rick's real comfortable dealing with that. I'm comfortable in dealing with clients as a business consultant. But if you're a developer and you like code and it's not your deal, that can help you know whether or not you really want to get into this.
I like that question. What does success look like to you? Because on our first website
is her idea.
Well,
and you have to follow up with for what reason.
Yes.
So you get a very specific answers from them, and they have to think it through. And, okay, because sometimes the why question can just be too broad. It's like asking a little, the little 2-year-old that's always going why. We don't know exactly what they're asking. So he said, for what reason? So we have a list of requirements from the outset that then we
Yeah, and that's something we might be able to provide with the materials after this, is questions you want to ask your customer.
What's interesting is I've asked those questions 6 months down the road, what does it look like? You get someone who's really bright and eloquent, who really hasn't thought it through, and they get this thing, and you get done, that was fluff. You know, and at first you think that there's something there, and after you start digging through all the shit, you find there's no pony.
Yeah, it's
That's the ones that
I'll
I
move on
have.
from that analogy. Yeah, my vision of success on that first website was being on a beach in 6 months. The second website, it was us hitting $500,000 in sales, us having delivery, within 3 days of taking an order, us being able to change the prices on our website, with a spreadsheet as opposed to having to enter things one at a time. My expectations were completely different because I had run into that wall. I said, well, that hurts, I don't want to do that again. Most of your clients have not run into the wall yet, so I don't know it hurts.
Yeah, what I was just going to ask is, like, for me, it's that balance point for people who are scared. And I know there's sort of like that education point for requirements and so forth. But what I find a lot of times is like, no, that's what we're paying you for. We just want you to run and do it. And I'm like, no, we got to sit down. I want to show you why your decisions are impacting that stuff. But it seems like clients don't want to do that.
Oh, no, he made me sit
Yeah, I mean,
down
I'm
and
trying to
write
literally
letters.
sit
I was
down in a
pissed
chair
at
and be
him
like,
for
this
that.
is going to happen if we do this. And you're like, and it's like sometimes they just don't see that.
Oh,
They don't
no,
want to see it.
we're so starstruck, we're so enamored, we got these blinders on, and we see money at the other
So how
end.
did you, I mean, was it multiple exposures? I mean,
He just stuck to his guns.
Or he just said like, we will not go
He
forward.
said, no, we cannot go forward until we define this as a requirement. We
I've got
cannot
one
go
customer-
forward till we have defined acceptance criteria. I'd never heard that term before I met you.
Yeah, well, so
And I say it all the time.
I've got a smaller customer who had several ideas, and finally I said, okay, this one's sounding pretty good. As your friend, you need to go ahead and construct a full business plan. And I mean a full business plan. So he went to, I don't know, SCORE or someplace, and he's off there doing a business plan. He comes back with a business plan, and he's willing to invest and all that, and it looks like it's going to go, then great. But I mean, he was one of the few that actually took that advice to actually do a business plan instead of just saying, I'm going to do this. And
So you may want to find consultants who can help the customer do a business plan and say, hey, go talk to this group and maybe have some kind of working arrangement with someone who can help do a business plan. But you're doing both sides a favor if you do that.
but even organizations, Tony, the Mercedes-Benz Club, if I would have been able to do it, I would have had them go do a business plan. But they wouldn't do it because they're Mercedes-Benz Club.
So far, we're talking mostly about developers and clients, and so I think, and how there's very different mindsets.
Mhm.
And so from the developer mindset, I think it's important to realize that the developer says it's done when X, Y, and Z actually works. When you click on the button, you see the proper result. You think in terms of automated testing, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And which is totally different from, am I making money?
Mhm.
Or do I feel wonderful about myself now? You know, which is a lot of reasons why people buy a car or a house or a website.
Yep.
So I think
That's why I get back to acceptance criteria. You have to
Right.
have them in language that are spoken by both developers and clients. So that you can say, I click A, B, and C, and I get D. See what that looks like from the client side. From the client side, that is, a customer gets on my site, does a search, finds their product, purchases it, and we are able to ship it, and we record that.
and that's very different from, but that's a subset really of your overall business goals.
Mhm.
And so I think it's good to be clear about where the website fits into your business goals and where the website is not going to have any impact at all on your business goals.
Yep, and there are gonna be things that a client wants to do because they're cool, that has nothing to do, ask them my question, and
I'll put that starburst on, but don't expect
yeah,
to
yep, I'll
impact
animate
sales.
this, but, it'll cost you 50% more, and what's it gonna do for you?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Oh, so
Right here.
so we're going to have a BOF after this session because we think that there might be some one-on-one discussions, and we'll go ahead and put that up there early too. So
That
in
may
case
be
we
where
don't,
we finish the slides.
if we don't get through with the slides, don't go ahead and freak. If you can make it, then great.
Is it right after this session?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quick comment on requirements. We probably 60% of our clients come to
Mhm.
partly written down or something
No.
like that.
No, it's,
Stuff in.
Bless you.
And we can usually look at it and say, look, we think that there is 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours of discovery here.
Mhm.
And we won't give an estimate or sign a contract until we have a fully defined scope of work with requirements, and we're happy to provide that for you, and here's how much it's gonna cost,
Mhm.
and you agree to that up front. And the other thing you say is, we'll write you a well-defined scope of work,
Mhm.
we'll help you with your requirements, and when we're done with that, you can shop it around.
Yeah,
You're paying us to help you do that, and
Mhm.
once you have done that, you're gonna have to do that no matter who you build this with.
yeah,
And we'll help you do that, and once they get to that, typically, they're gonna go with you.
yeah. They
And
trust you with that.
you're gonna have the requirements with you.
Trust
And
is
you're not
huge.
gonna have gone out on a limb and said, okay, I'll do it for that price, and we'll figure out the requirements
Yep.
later.
Yep, and that's not an option if you're a one-man shop, but, you know, if you've got a partnership with someone you trust. as a
Oh, it's an
business.
option, I'll tell you.
No, we've
Yeah.
done it.
I'll tell them that.
We've done it a lot as well, exactly the same thing, especially if it has some point, we do a lot of integration, so especially if there's some integration points to it,
Mhm.
because we want to integrate with our ERP,
Yep.
okay. You know, like,
Oh, and it sounds easy. From a client perspective, I don't have to do it, so that's a piece of cake. You
Just give me a price.
they're Legos, right?
It's like Lego, you just.
Yeah, these ain't Legos, you know, these are smiling dogs that you gotta put together. But yeah, that's a good point. You bring up something is, a conditional no is actually pretty powerful to the customer, because we're gonna go, why don't you wanna work with me? You know, we're gonna take that kind of personally. You can leverage that to, one, help them define the requirements better, and two, wanna work with you, because all of a sudden, hey, you know, you're special.
They respect you if you play hard to get it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
If it's been applicable to your experience, can you speak a little bit about expectations with new sites and development and search engine marketing?
Yes, yeah, you know, the first website we bought, they said, we'll have you on the top page for these search terms, you know, if you just pay us $1,000. And it turned out that they were filling, what is it, where you fill in your keywords on Drupal? It was basically something that's not even used anymore, it's ignored.
Oh, yeah,
Keywords.
it's a good idea.
MetaWords?
Yeah, that,
Keywords.
yeah,
NodeWords?
keywords.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is totally magic. One thing I completely did not understand is, if you've got certain search terms you want to build your, you know, website to, as far as, you know, doing the website marketing and search term marketing, am I asking the right question or answering
Yeah.
the right question? Help us to understand that as I build my content, I gotta build those terms into the website. It's so much easier to do it up front as opposed to writing a bunch of content and going, oh, you know, my first business partner goes, oh, we'll just go back and focus the, you know, we'll spruce it up at the keywords. Help us to understand what exactly goes into it, because that is something I still just barely kind of understand. And, you know, there are a lot of terms you're not going to get on the first 20 pages no matter what, because your competition is just ridiculous. Help them to understand long tail keywords. And the fact that, you know, people, once they get into that longer keyword or that search with 4 words, they're getting more focused. They're probably the ones that are going to buy. So don't focus on, you know, the single words that everybody's trying to hit. Focus, you know, farther down.
Well, and Tony's second site too is really, the front end marketing has very little to do with SEO. They didn't care about SEO in the second one, because
Yeah,
there's this
our
list.
SEO is the government saying you have to buy from them. So it has an issue.
But you're
Yeah, it
right.
really is.
But the agreement was only a hunting license. It was not actually printing money, because you're competing against Staples, you're competing against
Yep.
big names. And so now all of a sudden, instead of just being the world, you've got this world of 14 vendors that you can buy from, and it's extremely competitive of who, I like your site, so I'm going to go ahead and save my favorites on your site, and that means a whole ton of business from this facility.
Yep. But yeah, as far as the search terms go, you know, hit them with that very early and help them build it to those search terms. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah, it does. I come from the search engine marketing side, so I think a lot
Yeah.
of times one of the expectations in the define and design stage is search engine optimization.
Yep.
But because there's so many parts and pieces taking place, it kind of gets pushed as an afterthought, and we'll deal with that once the site goes live.
Yep.
And we find
Yep.
that
And that is
more expensive
totally,
and more
totally what we
time-consuming.
did. It's more expensive, you can't do it as well, and it's not, you know, it's not gonna be nearly as successful. It's gonna cost you more money. You know, have them do that right from the beginning and set the expectation. If you don't design to this, you're gonna have a miserable time trying to improve your search engine statistics.
And helping you to design that in is a full set of SEO tools for Drupal
called SEO Tools module set that my company created.
Set the expectations.
Build it in directly as you're doing this design work, and as you're trying to, prepare in advance, to build it straight into your site.
But when I hear there's that tool, I'm gonna go, well, you mean we just put in this module and we magically have great search engine
That's like
results?
$5, right?
Yeah, we think that's a small check mark. We don't realize that we still need to design to that to help that tool work.
But it's something that as a developer, you
Oh, no doubt.
bring in to help yourself, be
Yep.
prepared to have that discussion.
Yep, but have the discussion with the customer early would be the best advice I can give for that. And set expectations realistically. Because when we start researching this, we see all these ads that say, hey, for $1,000 we'll have your website in the first page, in the first 3 results for, 5 search terms. We believe it. We're probably also looking for Bigfoot. Too. We believe stuff.
I guess I just had one question about the maintenance, because you thought that after you created your site, you were done. So how did he make you see the value in the maintenance
Well,
and
part of it
support?
was having lived through it. We got to the point where we delivered the website. We had, we had all this content. We had videos. We had text courses and stuff that we wanted to put on the website. And I saw how hard this was after the fact. We just assumed the developer would put that on. We'd email them a pile of stuff and they'd put it on the website and we'd all be happy. I thought we wanted it in PDF form because that's something people can download. It's secure. They can't change it. This poor developer loaded 200-300 PDF pages, and then we're like, "Oh, that's really hideous. Why didn't you tell us that?" And then we went back and did him his web pages. So, go ahead, hate me. And I need to get back to the slides a little bit because we're just about.
Just out of curiosity, have you gone back and apologized to these?
My business partner tried to sue them. We got a lawyer, and I'm just like, just do what you want. Karmically, I'm going to come back as a wizard of desert.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not quite fair. I mean, the developer can't do something, they can't spend that much time on something without communicating to you the progress.
We called for 3 days before we got an answer from them.
Yeah, that's bad.
That communication leads to anger, that anger leads to going to court, that anger leads to blaming. So I'm back to my point again, communication. And talk in English, talk in terms they're going to understand. Don't tell them what the module is coded in, tell them what it does and what it costs. What it does, what it costs, what it does, what it costs. Those are the things that we understand.
One of the things that's really interesting for the folks who are the freelancers is I tip my hat to you for what you do because you have to wear so many hats. In our organization, a lot of what we do is I'm the one that answers the phone. I'm the communicator. I'm the one who.
You're the gatekeeper.
I'm the gatekeeper. I keep my guys, concentrating on what they want to do. And when I'm off the phone with our customers, I'm the one that is the customer advocate saying, wait a minute, I promised him that this was going to be done by noon tomorrow. What are you doing?
Yep.
I know Facebook is important.
Yeah.
My guys
So if you can afford it, you have a distinct communicator role. If you can't, understand that you're going to have to pick up that phone, don't be defensive. You guys have a lot of pride in this. You guys are doing good work. You think this is beautiful. You've done exactly what I've asked for, but it's not what I want. Try not to be defensive because when you're like, what? Or you ask for that. That tone of voice is huge. It may not sound like a big deal, but it's like dealing with a 4-year-old. If you're like, yeah, you're right, okay, what can we do to fix it? Move the communication to what we can do to fix it. Get away from, well, you said, he said, she said. Once you start blaming, it's just the road you don't want to go.
I want to show of hands. How many times have you gone ahead and heard the phone ring, looked at caller ID, and not want to answer the phone? And the rest of you are liars.
Can you go to the next slide? Because I really want to get to one of the things you said about the maintenance effort. Be sure they're planning for that right up front. Because, like I said, we expect to go on vacation after the website gets delivered. Help them understand that the work really begins there. We've got 5,000 products on our website, which is not a huge website, but it's full time. I'm trying to, I'm updating contracts with the government, which is a lot of extra headache. But because I knew I had these contracts that were in certain formats, I knew that we needed to be able to update the website from those same spreadsheets. So that was part of planning for the maintenance effort up front, and that's made a huge difference as far as the maintainability of the website. We find mistakes. we take descriptions from vendors and we put them on the website. There are mistakes. There's always going to be mistakes. They're easy to fix because we talked about how to load products before we even talked about what this was going to look like. And that's boring to talk about. Your customer wants to talk about, well, how cool is it going to be? What color is it going to be? You know, what's going to be animated? Talk to them about how are you going to maintain this, because that's what they're going to live with for the rest of the life of their business. So be sure that you make the point that how can we design that maintenance effort into the website right from the beginning, because that's going to make everybody much happier.
Did Rick talk to you at all about security maintenance as well? Like
he talked about the fact that we're going to have to update modules. We talked about who's going to update those modules, how often that's going to get done, what's it going to cost if we have him do it, what's it going to cost if I do it and I break it. And mom doesn't get a phone call because it didn't go so well. So yeah, talk about those things up front. Talk about not only how are they going to maintain it, what's it going to cost. We budgeted for a certain amount every month with Rick, just for me to get on the phone and say, hey, you know, this doesn't work, or I had a customer call and this happened. Budget for that. That's part of the planning and the maintenance of runs. What's it going to cost you down the road? Because you don't write one check and get it out of the box and be done with it. You guys are in a relationship with me as the client, whether you like it or not. We're married till death or court do us part.
If you can't tell, we're really lucky to have Tony in this organization assuming this role. Because if you could imagine, if Tony wasn't there explaining these types of things to the other people in the organization, what the calls we would get are.
Oh, one of the things that we had a consultant look at our website when we were in this thing about going to court, all that stuff that I need to apologize for. But we had the consultant say, okay, we would have to add this feature, we'd add this module, and we need theme this module. We went to Rick, he rethemed our entire site, and my partner goes, why is he charging for this? He goes, the other guy said they'd theme it, and the word theme was used in 2 different places, so he assumed it meant the same thing. So, you know, you've got to set expectations, because he didn't realize that retheming the whole site takes time and money. Go figure.
To paint the garage, they need to paint the house.
Yeah.
Well, I want to change that color too, by the way.
So, and be sure your client understands his role. You know, and by understand his role, I don't mean he's the business owner. I mean, is he going to load the products? Is he going to take the orders? Is he going to ship them? Is he going to get somebody else to do fulfillment? So help him to understand him or her to understand what the roles are and what role they're going to play. So he knows, am I going to be the one doing the upgrades, or am I going to pay Rick to do it?
Hey, Tony, we're going to have to go to the end. We're at 3 o'clock already.
Oh,
So
sorry about that.
I'm going to...
Actually, this is one point I'd like to make, and I said it before. You're in a relationship. We're well past the hand-holding stage when we've paid you to develop a website for us, because, like I said, that's not just a piece of our business. In a lot of cases, our whole business is this website. So understand our emotions. Understand that some days we're going to feel fat and have to go buy us chocolate.
Tell us we're beautiful. Fat free time.
Yes, tell us we're beautiful, because this is a long-term thing. It's not just to deliver a website step away from it like money. So as long as your client understands that up front, that's going to make a huge difference in the relationship with them. And as Rick said, we're going to do a birds of a feather and where?
Down the hall where the loft room is, like room 106.
Yeah.
Also, the evaluations. Be sure to fill out the evaluations if they're good. If they're not, don't fill out the evaluations. And then also these slides of our dogs and cats are available there.
When Rick made the slides, we had dogs and cats before we had bullet points. So he's